man, I didn't think they could do it. I didn't think this show could get any better. But that's what they're doing. It's like every episode is better than the last one. I watched episode 1 and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I watched episode 2, that's even better. I watched episode 3. How can you do this? How can you keep getting better with this show? And I don't know how they're doing it, but they are. And this show is amazing. And if you've watched my past reviews, then you know that this is my new favorite show. And I could go on forever about how great this show is. But what we're really here for is to talk about what happened in the episode and break down everything that happened and that was revealed to us, because we had some crazy stuff happening in this episode. So without further ado, let's jump into it and find out everything that happened in episode 3 of Stargirl. So we start off with an 8-year flashback, which is about 2 years after the Injustice Society killed the JSA, and it's with Icicle, and he's with his son, and his wife is dying, and, you know, his wife, she's, like I said, she's dying, so her last words that she says to him are basically like, make America great again, and destroy anyone in your way, and then she dies, you know, she got dead. But, I mean, it's kind of hard to feel bad for her and Icicle, because, I mean, first of all, they're villains, and they're evil, but her last words that she says before she dies are, destroy anyone in your way. It's kind of hard to feel bad for anyone that says that right before they die. But anyway, she dies, and then Icicle gets mad, so then he freezes a garden, and he's not too keen on plant life, but we end up back in present day here, and that's where we meet up with William, aka the Wizard, and he is teaching his son Joey some magic tricks because there's a talent show at school or something, so he wants to be really good, and he gives him some tips and tricks because, you know, he is the master wizard and magician here. So, of course, he's going to know all the ways to do magic. But then we end up showing up to school, and that is where we see the janitor again, outside staring at Courtney again. And this dude's very suspicious. We've seen him a couple times before. We don't really know, like, who he is or anything, but we know that he's really suspicious here because, I mean, he's probably one of the former JSA members that possibly survived, because I've theorized about that before, that maybe some of the members have survived, and that's probably who he is, one of the former members, but I don't know which one he is, but his name tag did say Justin, so if you can make anything out of that and figure out who he is, then please let me know down in the comments below. But then after that, we show back up with Icicle, and he is meeting up with William, and they're talking about Project New America and why they need to do this, because they're doing it to protect their family and their children and everything. And William really is a lot more vulnerable than any other member of the ISA, because he has a family. I mean, all of them have families, but he seems like the only one that really cares about his family. Like Icicle, he has a son. He doesn't really seem like he cares about him. Brainwave, he has a son. Doesn't really seem like he cares about him. But William, aka the Wizard, he has a son, and he does seem like he cares about him. So you can really see the connection there, and, well, this vulnerability is going to come back to bite him in the butt later in the episode. But we show back up at school with Yolanda, and she is still getting bullied for being a quote-unquote slut, according to everyone, and that's actually what's written across her locker, SLUT. And, you know, later when we see her again, her locker and the word slut was now covered up by flowers. So she didn't do that, but who did? We don't know yet, but Courtney stands up for her against Cindy, because Cindy's mad at her because she dated her boyfriend, which is Henry King Jr., aka Brainwave's son. So there's some tension there, and Cindy is actually the daughter of another Injustice Society member, which is the Dragon King, and we'll see him later in the season at some point here. So, after all of that happens, we do see Courtney, and she's walking home from school, but then she walks through this field, and she sees that the ground is like frosted, but in the shape of a giant star. So this is clearly kind of like the bat signal, but for Stargirl, that Icicle has left for her, and they know it's a trap, but she wants to go anyway, with or without Pat. So she doesn't care if he's going with her or not. She's got to go take down Icicle because he killed her father. or at least who she thinks is her father. So Stripe and Stargirl, they go back to where the star was, and then they go to fight Icicle. But let's just say things don't go as planned. Because when they first show up, Pat in his striped suit gets frozen, and now he's stuck in place so he can't move. So then Courtney, of course a reckless teenager, she decides to go in solo and go on her own to take down Icicle, but then she gets hurt, and Icicle is actually about to kill her when Stripe launches out his rocket blaster hand thing and sends Icicle all the way over to a bridge. And, well, let's just say this was a mistake. Because when he gets over to the bridge, we see a bus coming, and that is the bus that is filled with all of the Blue Valley High School students that went to the talent show, including Joey and Beth. So, yeah, this is not good. So, like I said, Stripe then breaks free of his frozen ice shell, I guess you could say, and then he ends up saving the bus, and Courtney uses her staff to light it all up so that nobody sees that, you know, they were getting saved by a giant robot there. So they're able to make it out without anybody getting hurt. Everybody's safe, you know. Everybody's gotten off the bus now, and yeah, you think everybody's safe, but then that is when we see Icicle again. He is no longer on the bridge, but he breathes some cold air out of his mouth, because, you know, that's what he does. And he sends a little bit of a breeze over towards Joey, who is doing something with his cards, his magic cards. And one of his cards starts to blow away, and that is because Icicle blew it away. And he did this on purpose, because when Joey's card blows away, of course he chases after it, because he can't lose a card, because then the magic trick wouldn't work. So he needs that one card, so he chases after it, but then there's this big red truck coming, and just as Joey grabs the card, well, he gets hit. I mean, this is a really sad moment in the episode that really shows how much of a monster Icicle is. Like, this is just sadistic. Like, he didn't even have to do that. He could have escaped and gotten free, but no, he killed Joey. Poor Joey. I mean, he didn't have to go after that card. He could have just gotten a new pack, but it's just a sad moment here. And I really wasn't expecting this either, but now, after watching the episode, I really love this moment, because it really shows how evil Icicle really is. And yes, it's sad to see that Joey's dead, but it's cool to see how cool Icicle is. But speaking of Joey being dead, we then see his father, William, and his mother at their home. And of course, they've been hearing the news reports about how he got hit and everything, but they didn't know that he was dead yet. But then apparently William gets the call, and they find out that he's dead. And, of course, his mother is freaking out. They're like, my baby boy, he dead. So, yeah, they're all sad and everything. But then after that, William realizes what he has to do. So he goes and he grabs his magic wand, and then he heads out of the house. But meanwhile, we see Pat and Courtney, who are also very sad because they think of it as their fault. They could have done something more to save Joey, but they didn't. So then Pat shows Courtney the JSA headquarters, and we see this shrine for all of the different characters and heroes that were part of the JSA. Like, we see Dr. Fate's helmet, we see Hourman's owl, we see... Actually, no, Hourman's hourglass, Dr. Midnight's owl, Jay Garrick's helmet, and stuff like that. And the thing about Dr. Midnight's owl that I think is really interesting is that, so that's a real owl, and his owner was Dr. Midnight, of course, and Pat mentions that his owl has been there since Dr. Midnight died, and he doesn't know that Dr. Midnight died. So this just reminded me a lot of Hachi, the movie about the dog. I mean, spoilers for that movie if you haven't seen it, but basically, there's a dog, and his owner dies, and like, it would like be like his owner goes to work every day. He goes to the train station and goes to work. And then his dog would always meet him when he gets home from work at the train station. But then one day he didn't come home from work because he died. And then the dog waited for him there at the train station every day until the dog died. And that's kind of what's going on here with the owl, is that he's still waiting there for Dr. Midnight. He doesn't know that Dr. Midnight is dead yet. So this is really sad. I mean, it's sad what happened to Joey, but then it's also sad what's happening to this owl, because he's just been sitting there just hoping and waiting that his owner would return, not knowing that he's never coming back. So that was really sad. But then we move on to some even more sad stuff. I mean, this was a really emotional episode because William, he shows up at Jordan's house, aka Icicle, and he has his magic wand and he's trying to kill Icicle. But then Icicle just, like, grabs his wand, freezes his whole body, and turns William, a.k.a. the Wizard, into a human popsicle and kills him. So it would have been nice if we got more of, like, a battle here between Icicle and the Wizard. But the Wizard literally didn't even do anything. Like, his wand lit up, but he didn't do any spells or anything, and he just dead. So this conveys even more how much of a monster Icicle is. Like, he just killed one of his friends, I guess former friends now, and then after this, he just goes right into a business meeting like nothing happened. But before I move on to the rest of what happened here, I'd like to mention that after this, when there was a news report about William's death, and they said that he had a heart attack, or supposedly had a heart attack, and that kind of doesn't make sense to me, because if they had to have found his body to know that he was dead, and then if they found his body, wouldn't it be covered in ice and everything? Like, how would you come to the conclusion that he had a heart attack if his body is covered in ice? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Now, you could argue the fact that maybe by the time they found his body, the ice was melted off and everything, but you'd still think it would be, like, extra cold. And yes, when people die, their bodies get cold because all the warmth leaves their body. But you'd think somebody would think it's suspicious and a little fishy that his body got that cold that quick. But besides that, the saddest part about this is Joey's mom and William's wife. She's going through a lot right now. She had to go to a double funeral for both her husband and her son. And now she has no one left in her life. Like, she probably has, like, maybe a sister or some other form of family. But she just lost her whole world. And, well, we're probably never going to see that character again. But just seeing that one moment after hearing that newscast about them having a double funeral and the emotion in her face, I was just so sad. And that's what this whole episode is. It's so sad and emotional. But then, like I was mentioning with Barbara going to the meeting with Icicle, she has now joined the, like, high-ranking team of that place, wherever she's working, and now she is working directly with Icicle and the Gambler. So that's really going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because like I said, they're supervillains. She just doesn't know that, and she's working with them now, so she may be working for... she may be doing evil stuff and not even know it. But then we get this moment with Cameron, who we found out earlier in the episode was the one that drew the flowers on, or painted the flowers on Yolanda's locker, and he started to form this connection with Courtney, but then we find out that he is the son of Icicle. He is Cameron Marquette, and this is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, because in the comics, Icicle's son, Icicle Jr., becomes Icicle Jr. and has the same powers and will become a villain as well. But in the show, they're starting to portray him as not a villain. I mean, he was nice to Yolanda. He painted those flowers over the slut, so he was helping her out there, and he was nice to Courtney and everything. So I'm starting to think that maybe he won't be a villain. Maybe he'll still get his powers, but maybe he will join the new generation of the JSA and team up with Courtney and all the other heroes, so then there may be a fight between Icicle Jr. and Icicle Sr., and I think that would be really interesting and really cool to see. But then finally, the last part of the episode, we do see Courtney at the end, and she is sitting at her window with a card, and that is the card that Joey gave her when he was practicing his magic on her. So she's definitely going to keep that card and cherish it, because that's all she has left of him. Because he was a really great guy. He was so nice to everybody, and it's just sad that he's gone now. So that is what inspires her to break into the JSA headquarters and steal all the artifacts of a bunch of the JSA members, including the Helmet of Wildcat, the Hourglass of Hourman, Green Lantern's lantern, Dr. Midnight's mask, and Johnny Thunder's pen. So this is really interesting, and so she says that it's time for some recruiting, and this means that she's going to be creating the new JSA. But we know that we're getting the new version of Wildcat. We know we're getting the new version of Hourman and Dr. Midnight. But then she also takes the items of Green Lantern's lantern and Johnny Thunder's pen. So this is really interesting. So does that mean we're getting new, younger versions of these characters as well? I think it really makes sense for Green Lantern, because then we could be getting like Jessica Cruz as Green Lantern, which is basically a younger version of Green Lantern and female, so it fits in with the team as well. And I think that'd honestly be really cool. I don't know about Johnny Thunder though, because I don't know anything about the character, but I think there is a younger version of him in the comics as well. So it'll be really interesting to see that play out as well. But in the promo material that we've seen for this new JSA, we haven't seen anything about those other characters. We have seen Wildcat, Hourman, and Dr. Midnight, but we haven't seen Green Lantern or Johnny Thunder, at least the new versions. So it may be something they're saving for a future season, but I'll be really interested to see if we get to see Jessica Cruz or some other form of a younger Green Lantern and Johnny Thunder. So that is how the episode ends, with her deciding that she's going to recruit some new heroes. And the next episode is titled Wildcat, because she's going to be recruiting Yolanda to become the new Wildcat. And I'm super excited for it. I already thought this episode was great. I think the episodes in the future to come will be even greater. And Wildcat is one of my favorite DC superheroes. So it'll be really cool to see a whole episode featuring Wildcat as like the main character, and how Yolanda becomes Wildcat. I'm super excited, but let me know all your thoughts and theories on this episode and future episodes down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and smash the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.